Panditji, and my pranams to all devotees of the Lord who are present here today. Most welcome to a special session here with Swamiji. Andrew Binwani, our President of Gita Ashram, Malaysia, to garland Swamiji, and our Vice President, Madam Thangamani Menon, to garland my Guru Priest.
Today, we are so blessed to have our Swamiji here to give us his blessings and his talk today. Dear devotees, I remember very well, it was many, many years ago when Swamiji came here to Gita Ashram. That time we had a very small ashram and we were downstairs at that time. And at that time, our Vice President, Dr. Menonji, requested Swamiji, can you please give us a discourse on the 13th chapter? And I still remember loud and clear, it doesn't, because certain words that goes into your mind, they are never rubbed off at all. So with this, Swamiji, we are once again very grateful to you, in spite of your, oh, what shall I say? It's so hard to put some words sometimes, but we are all very happy to be here, to listen to your wise advice and your talk. Jai Sri Krishna, Jai Gurudev.
Yam Shaiva Samupasate Shivaidi Brahmeti Vedantino Bauddha Buddhaidi Pramana Padavaha Karte Dinayayika Arhan Nityatha Jaina Shasanarata Karmeti Mimamsaka Soyamvo Vidadhadu vanchita phalam Trailokyanato Harihi Soyamvo Vidadhadu vanchita phalam Trailokyanato Harihi Madhya Hridaya Kashe Sadanandamayo Guru Udedu Satatam Samyak Ajnana Timirarunaha Harihi Harihi Harihi. As usual, we shall recite 3 times in chorus the auspicious monosyllable. This is an occasion for all of you to participate in a chorus recitation, and all your forefathers would be seeing you from the unseen heights in the invisible manner and will be pronouncing their blessings that you are in chorus reciting the auspicious monosyllable benedictory one. And I believe the succeeding generations also will be fondly looking at you with gratefulness and a lot of obeisance. None of you should miss this opportunity. Generally, we are used to namajapas, kirtanas and the like. Now, this is something different from that, though falling in the same hierarchy. This is actually a syllable, a monosyllable, from which the entire Vedic literature has evolved, emerged, and has been preserved. There is a sentence in the Vedas which says, Yo vedadau swarah prokto vedante cha pratishtita. The entire Vedas are prefixed by Omkara. They are also concluded with Omkara. Omkara as a sound combination, syllable combination, represents the entire gamut of knowledge which has evolved from the human mouth and brain. Knowledge evolves from the brain and it is articulated through the mouth and tongue. So it is represented in the form of sound combinations, letters, words, sentences, and the like. The entire gamut of knowledge is represented by Om. Not only that, Om consisting of 3 syllables, Ah, Ah, Ah. Anyone who opens his or her mouth and produces a sound will necessarily be Ah. And the sound that comes out of your mouth when you close your lips, Hmm, Hmm, Hmm. There is no difference at all. Anybody who closes the lips and produces a sound, it will be humming and the other one will be Ah. All the other syllables, consonants, sound combinations are emanating from holding the lips in the intermediate positions. They are represented by O, 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 O. There are many vowels like E, A, etc. But all of them will not fall in the line of Ah. Ah, O, Ah, O, Ah, A. There is a difference. So these 3, Ah, the 3 are representing the 3 basic states of awareness that we have. Ah represents the common wakefulness. We are generally wakeful for about 17 hours of the day. And we are asleep for at least 7 to 8 hours of the day. So the Ah is an extended wakefulness. It is represented by the syllable Ah. And sleep is a withdrawn and contracted state. Whatever is there in the wakefulness, all of it has been absorbed, withdrawn, and dissolved into our own system. That is represented by sleep. At one stroke, you wipe off completely the wakefulness in you and go to sleep. Next morning, you wake up to again be broadly awake, extensively so. So the emergence of both the states, say the wakefulness emerges from sleep and sleep also follows the dissolution of the wakefulness. Then in the intermediate level we have U representing all the dream experiences, dream state that you have. There is no world except when you are wakeful and your own wakefulness reveals. The world does not reveal itself. It is your wakefulness that reveals the world through the senses. Now this sound representative or sound symbol of the entire life of ours is what you call Om. In Mandukya Upanishad, the subject discussed is Om, A, U, This is the subject discussed. And if you are able to probe into all the 3 states, their source as well as the terminus, you will find it is within oneself. So Om, we have idols here which are representing different deities and other identifications. These are all visible deities, visible forms made out of matter. Now here is a symbol made out of our own sound, and that is that Omkara, that represents the supreme reality. Many people do not know this. By chanting Om, you will have better biological life, healthy life. We generally chant Om with a view to bring greater and greater purity, expansion, loftiness, perceptiveness, and the like. But I heard an American cardiologist say that the chanting of Omkara is very, very healthy for the human heart, biological heart. It increases the longevity of the heart. There is a way of chanting Om, which I don't demonstrate now or ask you to do. For the time being, I only ask you, if at all, to chant Omkara, interlocking your fingers first and putting them on your lap. Sit comfortably erect. You should be erect, but not to the point of making it uncomfortable. Then close your eyes. Open the mouth and the heart alike and join me. Join me. But you should have a definite thought, a sankalpa in you. What is that sankalpa? This chorus recitation emerging from this Gita hall, Gita Bhavan hall, should not merely pervade the entire Petaling Jaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia and the like. It should spread into the whole globe, generating its benedictory influence all over the world, bringing about peace, welfare and cohesion in the minds of particularly the human society. This kind of a thought and expansion is possible only for the human body and human life, a point that many of you have not cared to know. At least try to think of it now. God created so many bodies, right from monocellular life, bacterium, and many single-legged, two-legged, three-legged, four-legged, multi-legged, and no-legged. He was not happy. But when he made the human body, he felt very, very happy. Why? Only in this human body you can conduct an inquiry into the supreme reality. The supreme reality called God, the Paramatma, the Supreme Self, Brahman. Only in this human body it is possible to conduct an inquiry. We can see things through the senses, relate them properly, work on the sensory data, and evolve our own logic and reason, and ultimately land on the supreme reality called God. The whale will not be able to do it. The rhinoceros will not be able to. The elephant also not. Only in the human body, because of the brain and the power of articulation, thinking, etc., it is possible. So I would like you to join me in reciting this beautiful and most benedictory and purifying Omkara 3 times. I will be hearing your collective voice. It should be fully representative of the entire assembly here. In other words, I would not like any one of you to be reluctant, idle, or not fully sincere. Never worry about your sound, whether others will hear or not. Close your eyes and you hear your voice. Others should hear next. This is the way for chanting anything whatsoever. Shall I do it? Huh? Yes. Very few people say yes. Yes. Harihi, Harihi, Harihi. 3 times. Well done, but not sufficiently so. Try everyone. Harihi Om Tatsat. Jaya Guru. Jaya Guru. I am happy to be in the midst of all of you here for a short spell like this. Many of you may or may not know that I first came to Malaysia in 1972. Ever since, I have been a visitor to this country, not a resident here. But my heart is very much for Malaysia, maybe much more than perhaps you feel. Because I hear now and then many people like to leave Malaysia and migrate to Australia. Even now, in this assembly itself, there will be people who want to migrate. So that means you are not having so much of love for this country. I have a lot of fondness, and I always think of the welfare of this country, the cohesion and equalness that people have in this country. Naturally blessed. Except for a small break, I have been visiting this country almost every year. I have come to Gita Bhavan also, not once, a few times. I cannot say how many times. But it was in downstairs. So I was just having a look from outside how the downstairs was. So Gita Ashram visit is not anything new. So I am looking at all of you with a sense of familiarity and intimacy. A concern which I already had fondness, it is perhaps renewed to some extent. I was told that I should speak today, expose to you the subject of Bhagavad Gita in this particular light. What does Bhagavad Gita want us to do? Bhagavad Gita is a beautiful book. It is a life book, a life text. Many of you may call it a religious text. I oppose it. It's not a religious text at all. There are religious elements discussed in Bhagavad Gita, but it is not a religious text at all. We have two epics in India. One was written by sage Valmiki in the Treta Yuga, most prehistoric times. Valmiki started writing Ramayana in response to a reply sage Narada gave him. Narada visited his ashrama, his hermitage, Valmiki's. He was very happy. Sage Valmiki was involved with a deep thought and concern for the society. So he said, "My dear sage, you are a huge newspaper reporter." Narada was visiting every place unhinderedly, and whatever news he found, he would suddenly carry it and break it to wherever it is necessary. I don't think our present reporters are so efficient as Narada was. So you are traveling freely in all the worlds. So you must have come to know what all are taking place here. Now I have a question before you. Is there any person living now? Don't tell me somebody lived. Is there any person living now who is good, noble, great, moral, courageous, heroic, sympathetic, adventurous, and what not? Tell me whether somebody is living now. Narada had no doubt at all. I always call our country, India, as a dharma prasu. It's a Sanskrit word. It means that India was always delivering great and illustrious, dharmic, righteous people. There was no dearth of such people at any point of time at all. So Narada instantly said, yes, there is one. Who is that? The first son of King Dasharatha. His name is Rama. The first son of King Dasharatha. He is still growing. About 9 or 10 or 11 years he must have been. I know whatever has taken place about him so far, I shall narrate to you. The rest of it you find out partly by your own contemplation and partly by your own inquiry and search. You are living in Tamsa bank, the bank of the Tamasa river, and Ayodhya is not very far away. So you can come to know of it. Narada Maharshi disappeared. Valmiki got into a mood of contemplation and he could unearth a little more of detail. Then he started writing Ramayana. Tell me whether it was a religious book or not. Why are you keeping quiet? It is a book on the prince and king Rama, who ruled Ayodhya for a long time. He belonged to the Ikshvaku dynasty, where a number of illustrious kings and emperors were there. His own father was King Dasharatha. It is called the Solar dynasty which ruled India for long. The Solar dynasty. The earth itself is a piece broken from the sun, and it started falling. As it fell, it got cooled. And when the surface was sufficiently cooled, depending upon various factors, it started revolving and circumambulating the sun. So it found its own trajectory. Even now you will find within earth, I don't know what percentage is, a lot of fluid material is there. Gaseous material is there. Only in the surface it is solid, and that too 3/4 are covered by water. This earth owes its existence to the sun as a source as well as for the sustenance now. It is going around the sun. If the sun were not there, I don't know where the earth would still be. Am I clear? Huh? Do you agree? Why don't you think about it? It is about our own earth. It is thinking like about our own family, our own house. Where does it stand? Now, this was the book written called Ramayana. So, Ramayana was an epic, a historic narration made by sage Valmiki. Not after the instances which he reports centuries, 200 or 200 years later. Generally, history is written many years after the incidents, going into the archives and looking here, looking there, etc. But here, sage Valmiki was writing a history maybe 11 years after Rama was born. And then as he started writing, so he started writing it as a biography. Yes or no? Huh? Why are you reluctant to say? It's a biography on Rama. So as he started, at one point of time Rama had to abandon his wife Sita, who was pregnant. And Rama said, Lakshmana, take her and leave her at the door of Valmiki Maharshi's hermitage and come back. Naturally, Valmiki Maharshi's disciples spotted her, broke the news to the master. He came and looked at her. My dear girl, I neither blame you nor your husband. Have no concern or fear. I shall arrange to look after your pregnancy. I have got household disciples here, and everything will be all right. Feel safe. Then he became a part of the biography. So it was autobiography thereafter. My dear souls, understand it very well. I want you to understand this. We have a Ramayana and we call it a religious book. Install deities of Rama, start worshipping him, never trying to understand the elements of Sri Rama's life. Valmiki wrote it as a model, as an example, for you to copy, for you to embody the principles enunciated there, the values propounded there, the goals deciphered there. This is what Valmiki wanted. I call it a concurrent biography. A biography written while the author was himself living and of which the author was himself a part one. There is a second biography written by Vyasadeva after nearly 2 yugas passed, Treta Yuga passed. Now we reach the end of Dwapara Yuga. It is about 5,155 years ago. Remember this figure. 5,155 years ago. Vyasadeva wrote a similar autobiography. But it was not partly biography and partly autobiography, right from the beginning. Vyasadeva, starting from him, there were 6 generations, ending up with Janamejaya. The entire Mahabharata is describing the events that took place in and around these 6 generations, together with 1 or 2 generations earlier. Shantanu, Pradeepa, etc. It was fully an autobiography because it was his own children. Pandavas and Kauravas were his children. His children, children's children, like that. Ultimately, it come to Jnana Yajna. Do you want me to narrate the sequence? I think you are all mute. Like statues. Veda Vyasa, his son Pandu, Pandu's son Arjuna, Arjuna's son Abhimanyu, Abhimanyu's son Parikshit, Parikshit's son Jnana Yajna. These 6 generations are covered by Veda Vyasa's narrative, where he was alive and played an active part throughout. We know nothing about this Veda Vyasa except that he was born. Who picked him up because the parents abandoned him? Who picked him up? Where he grew? Where did he have his education? And what happened to him a few 1 or 2 decades? We only see him as a sage living in a hermitage. This is all what we know. So, the key to understand Veda Vyasa is what he has written. He says that I am an uncouth figure. I am foul-smelling. I am very lean. Nobody would generally like me. He is writing about him. It's a wonderful writing. Ramayana has 24,000 Sanskrit verses. And Mahabharata has 125,000 Sanskrit verses. All completely autobiographical. Now this Bhagavad Gita is a part of it. And what is Mahabharata itself? As I already told you, it is a description of 6 generations of the Kuru dynasty. They all belong to the lunar dynasty. Sri Rama belongs to the solar dynasty, and we had parallelly a lunar dynasty which ruled India for long. Hastinapura was the headquarters for them. This is Mahabharata. And Vyasadeva is describing through this narrative what? The decline and fall of the Kuru dynasty. What did I say? The decline and fall of the Kuru dynasty. Any powerful dynasty, not to speak of a simple family, the Raja sitting on the throne, mustering all the powers even to take the lives of people when it was so required, that dynasty will fall provided there is a value crisis and decline. You as an individual will not be able to sustain and grow unless you have values in your life. The same applies to your family. The same applies to the societal segment. Equally so to the nation, and more particularly to the globe. Tell me why the President of America and North Korea met. Could you ever imagine? These two people speaking in terms of atom bomb, explosion, etc., nuclear bombs, they happen to meet because value demands it. The alternate to coexistence is co-destruction, understand. The alternate to coexistence is co-destruction. Either America and Korea have to coexist or they have to co-destroy. Let us be very clear about it. The option cannot be different with the present president or any other president. No different at all. It's a question of value. Just like the force of gravity. If you construct a building, you have to construct it perpendicularly so that the force of gravity of the earth will be looked after. Similarly, if you have to build a life on the human mind, a product of nature, you have to build it sufficiently well to look after the mental, intellectual laws. The mento-intellectual laws or the psycho-philosophical laws are far more powerful than the physical, chemical, biological, biochemical and biophysical laws. Some are perceptible to the senses. Others are perceptible only to the human intelligence. Am I talking sense? Yes. There is no option. You may be rich, you may be resourceful, but bring up your children in a proper manner, making them understand the values which govern the welfare of the mind, intelligence and heart. There cannot be a substitution. There cannot be a neglect. If you neglect, there is a fall. Veda Vyasa is explaining not merely as a historic narration. Whatever he says, he bases it on sound reason. If Duryodhana spoke something, he spoke because of this. If Krishna behaved in a certain manner, he behaved because of this. It is not that he spoke, he did. For every action, the cause, the motivation, the propulsion, the impulsion, the instigation or inspiration is provided sufficiently well. In other words, both the narratives are laying open before you the complexity of human life and the complexity of the world, and also the art and the process of meeting this complexity, living in harmony and integration with it. That is the subject. If I am going to talk to you on Bhagavad Gita, I talk to you on Bhagavad Gita considering to be a historic narrative. I have been propounding this for the past few years because there is a purpose. I want this Bhagavad Gita to be gifted by India to the entire world countries. I am myself writing Bhagavad Gita, verse, its transliteration, rendering in English, then the meaning, then about 150 words notes on each verse, so that every verse when read, it will promote some kind of an imagination and introspection in the reader. A mere translation will not, and a commentary nobody can afford to read, they don't have time. After completing the book, I have in mind whether it will be fulfilled or not, I don't know. I would like spiritual ambassadors to go from India and see the heads of state in the whole country and give them a copy of the book, saying that, please read it. It is a historic text preserved by India for the past 5,150 years. Can you tell me whether there is anything in the world where a historic book has been preserved for such a long time? You are all intelligent people, widely read also. Tell me, I shall be enlightened if you give me an answer. We have preserved this text for 5,150 years without a change of syllable. Tell me, who preserved it? Were they the historians of India? Or were they the common folks of the land? We read Bhagavad Gita. We hear Bhagavad Gita. We discuss Bhagavad Gita. We comment upon it. We deliver discourses on the text. Because of its nearness and intimacy with us. It is a song of our life. It is a song of our problems. It is a song of the solutions the problems have. It is a song of the courage of man, the resolve of man, the determination of the man. It is a song of the potentials of the human mind and the human intelligence and the heart. It tells you about the immense possibilities which are around you. My dear man, don't die as an ant. Die as a human being, if at all. The resources are external and internal. The internal resources are held by the mind and the intelligence of man. The external resources are far too simple. Far too simple. The real resources are inside, inside, inside. I have founded an institution called the Center for Inner Resources Development. In Petaling Jaya also we have the Society for Inner Resources Development. When I coined this phrase, I had a purpose. The purpose is, tell man that he has infinite resources within his body. Your body completes its growth. What did I say? Your body completes its growth latest by 21 years. From the next moment, it starts declining. There is no further growth. Tell me, for the decades of life that follow, which part of your personality will grow if the body has completed its growth? Is your mind growing? Every year you celebrate your birthday. Don't celebrate it. On your birthday, you sit in examination, call your intimate friends, and conduct an inquiry over the year. How much has my mind grown? How much has my intelligence grown? Have I registered a definite degree of growth, enrichment, empowerment, and resourcefulness? This should be your birthday. We are human beings. We are not like animals. By eating, we cannot be joyous. By sleeping, we cannot be joyous. By dressing, we cannot be joyous. We can be joyous only in the hands of promotional, elevational, and fulfilling knowledge. Knowledge is the greatest experience. Newton saw an apple fall. Not one apple, so many apples were falling from the same tree. Many of the passers-by took one or the other and ate them. Newton kept quiet. Every apple is falling from here, there, vertically down. Why the apple is falling? Why can it not fly? After all, where is the earth, you tell me? Is it at the bottom of anything? Where is the earth? Where? I am telling you, where is the whole globe? Where? Is it not supported by air? In every direction is infinite distance. It is such an earth, and the apple is falling. It can as well fly. Will it make any difference falling and flying in the endless space? You are not able to imagine. In the endless space, will it make any difference? So he was wondering. He did not pick up the apple. Went back, started thinking. For 1 year he thought and found the force of gravity. Tell me, is he a great man, or we every day eating our food and sleeping great? You think of your children, think of them. Let them have a good, noble and great mind. Let them have a very resourceful intelligence. Let them be able to think, inquire, find, discover, identify, discern. Let them have fulfilling knowledge. Let them become great in the hands of their own mind and intelligence. Not that he should be born as a film star. That is what many of you think. So knowledge is something very, very great. Very, very great. Very, very great. Bhagavad Gita, we have preserved it as a historic book. When you say this, all the countries will be happy to look into and turn over the pages. The moment you stamp it as a religious text, they will say, we have our religion, why should we read your religious book? And it is not religious. It is not. Suppose it was a religious or a philosophical or a spiritual narration, I think Krishna would have delivered it during the 12 years of forest exile which Arjuna had. That was the right place to deliver it, if it was a spiritual or a philosophical or a religious book. Do you agree or disagree? Huh? Why are you keeping quiet? Answer me, come along with me when I talk. See, forest life was a life when they were passing through austerity, freedom, leisure, etc. If it was a book of religion and asked Arjuna to do religion and religious practice, do you think that the battleground was the place for it? Did he have time? Huh? So the text should have been delivered during his forest exile. Krishna could have gone, Arjuna, my dear friend, I have something to tell you. Listen, you already are in an austere mood. I will tell you all about austerity, soul, etc. Please spend 3 years in contemplation. He could have told. He did not. It was delivered in the battlefield at the nick of the moment, just before the commencement of discharge of arrows. This Bhagavad Gita is selected. It consists of 18 chapters from the Anushasana Parva of Mahabharata. And all the incidents that took place just before Bhagavad Gita Gospel were war incidents. And soon after the delivery was over, again war incidents started. So it is in between the sequence of war events. Tell me, could it be a religious book? And what is mentioned there? The call given throughout Bhagavad Gita is Tasmad Yudhyasva Bharata. Therefore, Arjuna, fight. Do fight. Do fight. Do fight. This is the call of Bhagavad Gita. Because Arjuna found that he was unable to fight. He could not fight. He kept his bow and arrow down. And unable to stand, he sat. That sitting Arjuna had to be made to stand. So you tell me, what was the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? Arjuna, close your eyes as I asked you to chant Omkara. Was it that? No. He was flinging like arrows, words, piercing words, thrusting words. By words of inspiration, words of enlightenment, words of expansion, words of resolve, words of courage. He made Arjuna stand and fight the war without even wasting 1 second. So Bhagavad Gita is a historic text, not a religious gospel at all. It was not given during Arjuna's forest exile. In Kurukshetra, what happened? The war was about to begin. Dhritarashtra was the son, the blind king was the son of Vyasadeva, biologically. So Vyasadeva, out of fondness, came to Dhritarashtra and told him, my dear son, this is a very, very consequential, unprecedented war. Many historic events, unprecedented events are going to take place. Obviously, you would be interested in seeing the war. Your own sons are there, 100 of them assembled. Would you like to see? Then I will give you a special vision, he said. Dhritarashtra said, my dear sage, don't tell me that. I know my sons are wicked, and all of them will fall in this battle like jackfruits, one after the other. Which father would like to see the sons fall in the battle? So I don't want to see. Then Veda Vyasa said, I shall equip Sanjay, the narrator, with a very special power, as a result of which he can live and move anywhere in the battlefield, unseen and unheard. He will not be seen by anybody, and no weapons will touch him. He can go anywhere in the battlefield and also the camps and find out whatever takes place, and he will give you a full narration. Saying this, Veda Vyasa went. Sanjaya started the narration. How did he narrate? He was a very good narrator. What is the greatness of Bharatavarsha, India? Which are the huge mountains? What are the holy rivers? Are there any holy abodes there? All these things he was explaining. Suddenly he had to rush to the battlefield because the war began. He was involved in the developments there for 9 days, and on the 10th day, hit by Arjuna's arrows, Bhishma fell from the chariot. He could never think of it or digest it. Bhishma, the unconquerable. both by virtue of his battling dexterity, powerfulness, and also by his spiritual knowledge and austerity. Such a man, how could he fall from the chariot? And that too, Arjuna hit him by arrows. The grandson hitting the most harmless and blessing grandfather. The grandfather had no enmity to the grandson, and the grandson had no unfriendliness or distance from the grandfather. He was unable to contain. He immediately ran to the blind king and said, Sanjayoham Maharaja, Namaste Bharadarshabha. I am Sanjaya the narrator, come again. Prostrations to you. Bhishma has fallen. What? What? Bhishma has fallen. I feel my whole army is fallen now. How could this happen? You say Arjuna hit him. Arjuna, they are righteous people. How could they hit the grandfather? If my son did something wrong, I could understand, but Pandavas were not so. I am not able to digest this news, my dear Sanjaya. What is happening in the world? Dharma dharmo balavan sampraba iti me madi. I think adharma has become powerful. Dharma has become weak. The world has changed, as many of you are saying and thinking. So I would like to know, what is this? What is this? I am not able to contain this. You are going to tell me so many other war developments. Everything is about the killing and the death. Killing and the death. How can I contain? This itself I am not able to contain. So I am wondering how this happened. After all, they have assembled in Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra was not a battlefield. It was a field of dharma, austerity. In that place of age-old austerity, the cruel war was being fought. So is this harmonious in any manner? What happened? I would like to know whether before the commencement of the war, there was this subject discussed by anybody. I find that Krishna was there. Krishna is there as a charioteer of Arjuna, and you say Arjuna hit Bhishma. I feel that Arjuna must have had some compunction before doing this crime. So did he express it? Did Krishna elucidate anything for him? Was there any dharmic dialogue? Before the war even started. So I would like to know all about how the whole game came to be started. Narrate to me right from the beginning. Then, in the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, the first verse is an enquiry from the blind king. What does it say? Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre samaveda yuyutsavaha mamakaha pandavaschaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. They have assembled in the Kurukshetra, which has been an abode of dharma for a long period of time. The Kurus, the Kauravas' ancestor, Kuru by name. From Kuru they derived the name Kauravas. That Kuru had done prolonged austerity there, and the whole place is sanctified. In that sanctified spot, the news that you are giving me has no sanctity at all. It appears to be a desecrational note. This sanctified place, how this crime was committed. So I would like to know, was there any exchange other than war between Arjuna and Krishna? Was not Arjuna assailed by doubts, reluctance, etc. in the matter? Did he express it to Krishna? And if so, what did Krishna say, instruct or clarify? I would like to know. So speak to me right from the start, so that my mind can be consoled before hearing your further narration of the sequence of war. This is the meaning of the first verse. People generally translate it in this manner and then say, having come to the abode of Dharmakshetra, did Yudhishthira think of abandoning the war because of the influence of Dharmakshetra? It is not so. This is what he was inquiring. Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre samaveda yuyutsavaha Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. So Sanjay, a beautiful narrator, started. He explained elaborately how the two armies arrived in Kurukshetra, Duryodhana's team being the first, Pandavas being the second. Krishna always wanted to make sure that the initial step at every point of time in the war was not made by Dharmaputra, Yudhishthira. Did you hear me? No. No. Krishna wanted to make sure that the first step should not be done. So I was very happy when our Prime Minister Vajpayee announced after that nuclear experimental explosion, subsoil, we will not make the first use of weapon. You remember? No. Huh? Great meaning. We will not make the first use. So Krishna wanted to make sure that the first step for war should not be made by Yudhishthira at any point of time. So the first team to arrive in Kurukshetra was Duryodhana's. Subsequently, Pandavas came. Then made out a charter of the rules to cover fighting. How long can we fight? Who should be involved? Who shouldn't be spared? The people who carry weapons, this, that and all, none of them should be touched, etc., etc., etc. And then identification marks were given. And then when everything was over, everything was ready, Duryodhana marched to where Drona, the Acharya, stood and started speaking in an unparliamentary manner. What did I say? When you go to the teacher, will you speak or ask him to speak? You go to a guru to teach him. So he went to the guru and started teaching him. He said, I don't want you to do anything. Only protect and look after my grandfather, that's all. Don't take any further initiative. My grandfather is the pivot, and when he is protected, I am safe. Therefore, Bhishma meva bhirakshantu. He gave an order. This is how. Bhishma was standing by the side and he was unable to tolerate. Somehow he wanted to put a stop to him. So he said, ah! Like a lion he roared and then blew his conch. That made the commencement. Following that, they raised all kinds of war cries, instrumental as well as mouth, everything. And the sound was very tumultuous, says Sanjay. Then, for the reciprocal sound, the entire Pandava army kept quiet, with Drishtadyumna as the leader. Drishtadyumna was the commander-in-chief. When Bhishma blew the conch, it was for Drishtadyumna to counter it. He kept quiet. I am there only for name's sake. Bhishma cannot be met by me. So he kept quiet. When everybody kept quiet and nobody was raising the sound, Krishna decided, I had told them and I had done a pratijna that I will not wield the weapons and fight in the war. But I had not said I will not blow my conch. So he took his Panchajanya, he blew it. All the people blew only conches, never raised the other sounds. And that sound was so pronounced, so reverberating, that it started hitting the hearts of all the army men of Duryodhana, says Sanjay. This is the subtle influence of Dharmakshetra. Just see how Duryodhana behaved.